Good morning, everybody. Today is the 14th day of the month of Iyar. The 14th day of Iyar is the second Passover, Pesach Sheni. It means that Passover was precisely 4 weeks and 1 day ago, the first day of Passover, a month ago. And in the Torah, it talks about the people who could not celebrate Passover because they were ritually unclean. And they asked God, Lama Nigara, why should we lose out? And God said, I like that. And so I'm establishing a second Passover for you 1 month after the first one. And on that day you could eat matzah and you could have maror and you could also have chametz in your house. So you could have bagels and matzah for your thing. And since then, it is customary to partake of some matzah on this day to commemorate that occurrence and the very powerful and important lesson. The lesson is, it's never too late. In spiritual matters, I didn't do it yesterday, okay, well then today I can do it. Or in a month from today I can do it. Don't worry about missing it. You never miss it. You can always catch up to it. Just get moving. That's the bottom line. Don't let that be an excuse, oh, I missed it, or I forget it. Don't forget it. It's always an opportunity to go. It's a very, very important lesson, this festival. So we have some matzah to remind us, and therefore there's matzah here today, which is, by the way, out of the oven, and it's fresh and it's crispy. And please, avail yourselves of the custom. And it's been a month, so I think your system has finally gotten rid of whatever was there a month ago. Today is also the third day of May. And we are now holding on page 44, 45, in this compilation of pages that you have in front of you. And we are in the midst of concluding a very heavily Kabbalistic explanation, which took us a very long time to plod through it. With a lot of discussion and talk and stories and examples and parables and tales, just to get the idea here. Basically, and this is really, really basic, there are 5 areas, all associated and affiliated with numbers, that are connected to how the divine energy is projected into this world, coming from the divine. You're talking about something that's completely otherworldly, unworldly at all. Divine, God. And so the way it works is in a series of different projections until it gets down to this world. And when you look out there, you don't see God, you see trees and grass and birds and whatnot. You have to look carefully for God. You have to search for God. And those are affiliated with numbers. In the Torah, you have individual numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In Hebrew, in the Torah, you have the tens, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. In Hebrew, you have the hundreds, 100, 200, 300, 400. That's called Me'ah. Me'ah is 100. You have Elef, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. Then when you get to 10,000, there's a word for 10,000 called rivavot. There is no higher number in Hebrew. You can say million, and you can say million, or billion, or milliard, which is adopted from some Spanish or something, but that's not Hebrew. In the Hebrew tongue, it only goes up to 5. Single digits, double digits, triple digits, thousands, and 10,000. And the word for 10,000 is rivavot. And so we discussed this at length. The single digits are comparable to characteristics that we have. Each characteristic is unique, is different, and don't quite need each other, although without each other, they don't have the same veracity. So you have, for example, a characteristic of love. Okay, that love comes from giving. Love means to give. I love that person, therefore I will give. and give and nonstop. Look at a mother giving to her child, a parent giving to her child. It's nonstop giving, because it's love that it's. Now sometimes too much giving is also no good. So you'll need to have discipline within the giving. That's another characteristic. Discipline is withholding. But if the withholding isn't for the benefit of the person, then it's also out of love. But now you've taken another characteristic, which is distinct and different, unique, and you've put it together with love in order to create a better love. But love doesn't need that characteristic. You can have love and love and love without any stop and without any fail. Love doesn't need it. If you want to direct it in the right direction, you'll need to discipline it. And so on with the other 7 characteristics, like compassion. Too much compassion may smother the other person and may not be compassionate at all. And if it's not disciplined, or if it's not fueled by love, and so on. Each one of them can use the other one, but it doesn't need the other one. The double digits, that is a reference to intellectual capability, not characteristic and heart, but now you're talking about brain. In the brain, we have 2 very basic characteristics. One of them is called wisdom. Wisdom is your stored information and also the power of your brain computation. So if somebody asks you a riddle and you go, oh, got it, that flash is your wisdom. But then there's another element that's called understanding. You've got to take that flash and you've got to develop it, or you've got to understand it. Understanding your wisdom makes your wisdom applicable, palpable, understandable. Without understanding, your wisdom remains just wisdom, and it's just not understandable. Without wisdom, what you understand is silliness, is folly, because it's not wise. It's just understanding of useless information that has no meaning or any. I know they tell you that the knowledge is power, but there are some knowledge that have power in not wise ways. You can understand how to drown yourself or something, God forbid. I mean, that's not understanding of any kind of wisdom here. So wisdom and understanding are 2 that necessarily need each other. Without wisdom, you don't have proper understanding, because there's nothing to understand. And without understanding, you can't understand wisdom. So those 2 have to work in tandem. And so therefore they are in a separate category of intellectual. Intellect needs each other. They are doubled. That's why they're double digits. The triple digits are levels that are above the triple digits, and then the 1,000, and then the 10,000 are levels that stand above a person, and they don't have a specific area where you could point to. So for characteristics, you can point to your emotion, you point to your heart. For intellectual, you point to your brain. But then there are other things within a human being that are above all of that. For example, will. Willpower is a power that's everywhere. It's not just in one specific location of a person, but it's everywhere. Let me just do not disturb here for an hour. Very good. Okay, so it is a power that is encompassing the entire person. Then there is something we call desire. Desire is not a willpower. A desire is something that you want to make you feel good, to achieve the next level, which is pleasure. Will is, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm pushing forward like a bull in a china shop. Where there's a will, there's a way. If there's a will, you can move mountains. It doesn't come with any kind of pleasure or necessarily anything. It just means I get this done, and I don't care what's in my way. I'm getting it done. Desire is a, and the 2 different words in Hebrew, is a indication of a person that really has a deep need for something, and he's not or she's not using the will, but rather, I desire this, and I'm going to see what I can do to get a hold of it. But it won't be an aggressive necessarily thing. And then the end of the desire is, once you have that, what you desire this big, beautiful house. Once you've built it, then you're ready to move in. That's called pleasure. Pleasure is the deepest element within the person. It's undefinable. That's a reference to 10,000. It's the deepest thing within the person. It's the deepest level of godliness that is definable in any way, even though it's very not definable. How do you define pleasure? Like, tell me what pleasure is. I don't know. I just look at you and I can see right away whether this is pleasurable or not. Or you can say for yourself, I went on vacation. I was in Costa Rica, and I spent a week in the sun, and we just played the games all day long. But one day it was a little rainy, and then all of a sudden your face changes. It was a little rainy. So the pleasure level is discernible within the person. You can tell whether that person is truly enjoying this, and is there pleasure from this or not, or any kind of other thing. And then one more thing, you may enjoy Costa Rica.
Right.
It may mean absolutely nothing to me.
Right.
I can go there for 3 days and I can say I don't like the sun. I'm not interested in the zip line, and this kind of thing doesn't. So what's your pleasure? My pleasure is to sit on the couch and do nothing. How can that give you pleasure? How do I explain how things give me like? Or my pleasure is to go to my favorite restaurants for the next week. How? Just eating food? Yes. But in 6 hours from now, that food is gone, and you never know it. I know, but during that moment, those moments, I'm enjoying it. Listen, everybody has a different way of enjoying their pleasure. And another thing about pleasure is, that's why it's so elusive. It can't last. If you ate in your favorite restaurant every single day of your life, you wouldn't have pleasure from that. It would just be routine. It would be a normal thing. You can't capture the pleasure. You had that car, your eyes went out. Oh, my neighbor has it. I'm getting that car. And you work for 6 months and you get the car. And after 3 or 4 weeks or 3 or 4 months, it's just a car. My father came to visit. He's in Cobb County for Shabbos. He'll be here tonight for the service with God's help. And he says, you have a beautiful house. He's been here before. And, living in a beautiful house, I said, to be honest with you, I even if I could, I don't, that's not what gives me pleasure. I need a big house. That's what we needed. We weren't looking for a beautiful house. That was not on our agenda on any level, and it still isn't. It's not really part of who my wife and I are. It happened to fall into our hands. Thank God for whatever it is, but it's not. I don't. That's not where I get my digs. We just wanted a big house, but not just because we have a big family, but because we have a big family here. Mm-hmm. It's the community that we were concerned about, that everybody should be able to fit into all the parts of the house that we needed to open for people. It's like somebody once told me, he came to visit, and I was living in Sandy Springs, and there was a lot of trees there, and there's a lot of nice lawns and everything. You don't see that in Brooklyn. No trees growing in Brooklyn. Anyway, so he came to visit, and he's driving along the streets with me. He's like, oh, wow. Finally, he says to me, you live on vacation. So I said to him, there's one big difference over here. I actually work on vacation. For me, I got to get out of here. So constant pleasure, it's not pleasure. That's not pleasure. You've got to constantly look for ways to give you pleasure. And if you did it all the time, then it wouldn't be pleasure. It would just be normal, routine, whatever. You wouldn't appreciate it that much. That's the deepest part of a person. And that's what really pushes us. The reason why we have anything, characteristics to do this, and intellectual capabilities to think that, and willpower and desire, is that at the end road is that pleasure. That's the sweetest and most driving force within people. Now, that's basically where we got. There's so much to this. But one of the things that he talked about was that the Torah, in the last portion of the Torah, towards the very end of the Torah, it describes the Torah as coming from the 10,000. That's where this whole thing fits in. And now what we'll do is, we are holding at the last paragraph in 44, which has a parenthesis around it, but we're going to start from the beginning of the page, the top of the page, while the 100. There's one other aspect that we talked about, and that is, and again, we cannot get into the length of it because we really spent a lot of time on this, and that is that according to Jewish tradition, each individual person is supposed to make 100 blessings every day. 100 blessings would be easy if a person prayed 3 times a day, because that takes care of about close to 60 of them. And then the rest of them, the different blessings that one makes in the morning, and in the rest of the prayers, and in eating food. And so by the time you finish with the day, it should be easy. On a Shabbos, where the blessings are not that long in the Amida prayer, then you have to find ways to supplement it. But otherwise, a person is supposed to make 100 blessings every day. Let's keep that thought in mind.
Is that just blessing God, or is that blessing others? So if you're praying for others, is that blessing?
It is the blessings, the way the sages set them up.
Specific prayers.
According to the Torah, in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 9, I believe, maybe 10, it says there that when you eat and you're satisfied, you should make a bracha, a blessing to God, the Lord your God, on the good land that He has given you, eating from the land. So the benching, the long grace after meals, after one eats bread or matzah and stuff like that, is the only blessing that is specifically, clearly written in the Torah. The other blessings were all established as a result of that. Because what does it mean that you have eaten and you're satisfied? What's the blessing for? The blessing is for your satisfaction, right? So because you're satisfied, that means you're enjoying it. Satisfaction means that I now feel better. I'm not good. So they learned from this that any time a person feels good, or anything you benefit from, you should make a blessing. So after all kinds of foods, we have blessings, different blessings. And then they said, wait a minute, and what about before the food? And they learned that from other places in the Torah, and that's not quite specifically specified, you must make the blessing, but it was understandable from other places. So you generally have 3 categories. The blessings that are made on things that you enjoy, like food, or like having a baby, there's a blessing for that. Or like a new garment or something, you make shehechiyanu, which is something that a good feeling. There's the blessing on the mitzvahs, on the commandments. So before you do a specific commandment, you make a blessing. Like before listening to the sound of the shofar, before making in a sukkah, or reading the Megillah, or lighting the menorah. There are blessings that we make. These are the blessings that we make. These are all established by our sages. The exact words, nothing has changed in those words. And then there are blessings of thanks. And those are blessings that we make usually during the prayers and so on and so forth. So those are the basic 3 categories. There's so much to that. That's when we begin our class in Talmud, we begin the section of Talmud, the first section, called brachas, blessings. And that has all the different blessings that we make. In that very long volume of Talmud, which will probably take a couple of years at least to finish, probably more than that, to finish the entire volume, not the chapter, but the volume which contains all these chapters, take a few years maybe, but we'll get through all the blessings and when they're made and why they're made and how they're made and what was decided for and pro and con and then the prayers and all the blessings. So those are the kind of Baruch Atah on your coffee, on your bagel, after your bagel, after your coffee, before going to the bathroom is a blessing. There's all kinds of blessings that we make to offer thanks or whatever. All right, let's see here. Top of the page, 44. While the 100 blessings, which we just talked about, are able to affect a flow into Malchut from the level of 100. Okay, now, just a couple of words of explanation here. The word bracha in Hebrew means?
Prayer.
Blessing.
Tefillah means?
Prayer.
Prayer. Bracha means? A blessing. The word bracha, though, etymologically, that means how the words are related, is related to a different word in Hebrew, which is hamavrich. Hamavrich means to draw down, to actually plant, to dig down. So bracha, as explained in the Hasidic teachings, is not simply a thank you to God or whatever, but is also a drawing down of godly energy. It's not just saying, oh, I need permission. Oh, I had enjoyment. Thank you, God. It's not just that. Every single time a person makes a bracha, contains God's name in it. Baruch atah Adam, Elo. So these are God's names. Every single time we recite such a blessing, we are actually drawing down divine energy from a higher place than the natural divine energy that's already accessible to us. We are supplementing our divine energy with a deeper element of energy. That's the word bracha, and that's how every bracha begins. Baruch, blessed are you, God, really meaning Baruch, drawn down are you, God. That's the composition of the words. Baruch atah, our King, the King of the whole universe, you're coming down to me. So every time you make a bracha, you're drawing down the divine energy. Where? All the way to Malchus. Malchut, the level of Malchut is the final level of characteristic. It's the seventh. What does it mean? Malchut means kingship, royalty, or in emotion or in characteristic, it means self-evaluation. And the ability, now that I have the whole unit, where am I? What am I doing with myself? Where am I going? That's the level of Malchut. But because Malchut is at the bottom, it's the lowest of the it's the feminine level, by the way. The Shabbos is called Malchut. It's the Shekhinah, the divine presence as it is in a feminine level. So it's the bottom in order to facilitate the next level. The bottom means, now that I've reached the end of this level, I'm up to the next section, which is what the female in this world, it's the major difference between a male and a female. A male can't prepare the next generation. It's only a very little tiny bit from the man. But the woman, it's a 9-month self-evaluation, if you will. I don't want to get into that. To draw down the divine preciousness of a child, of the next generation, the next level.
Rough question. When you say Malchus, you said it's the bottom level.
Mm-hmm.
So that's right above us as far as...
There's no up and down, really. But in this world is the lowest of the lowest of the... We're in the bottom of the barrel here. So we're on the absolute lowest level. But this is the level where God wanted to reach. Mm-hmm. It took a while to get down here. This is where he was going. So all the rest of the journeys, all the other souls and angels and whatever, are all hit there so that this place should happen. Mm-hmm. If this place happens, then God's divine plan has been realized. So you can call yourselves on the bottom of the barrel, but that's, or you can say the end of the journey. But that's where the intention is. Mm-hmm. The whole focus was here.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so important for us to complete our mission. And this was why it's so difficult. An angel doesn't have any difficulty. He's angelic. Someone who is an angel is perfect. That's not what God intended. He wanted to have imperfection and to struggle and to overcome those struggles. And then the imperfection becomes perfect. Because you've taken something that has been a struggle that no one else in any other level of any spiritual world has. That's why this is the main focus, because of the struggles, because of the challenge. The challenge is here to bring out the best within us. And some of those challenges are...
Well, I think I read somewhere, heard somewhere where, in a sense, as it were, that the angels are somewhat
Jealousy?
Jealous, yes.
Says it straight out in the Talmud, all places, yeah? It just says, however great they are, a one sentence, one bracha that we can make that they don't have any food, they don't have any benefit. No. One bracha that we make, they'll give anything for a talus, for a mezuzah. They don't have that. When we go into a cemetery, every single time I go into a cemetery, I take my tzitzis that are hanging out, and according to law, I put them in my pocket. I hide them because I can do it and they can't. And it's a form of, what are you laughing at them here? Are you showing off? Honestly.
Wow.
You're not allowed to walk into a cemetery with tefillin and all that stuff for that reason. Just do your prayers and move on. Because we have something that they can't do. Every single time you light a Shabbos candle, it's such a simple matter. It's just lighting a candle and making a prayer, a blessing, a bracha. There's jealous, they can't do it. That's something they cannot do. They not understand and appreciate how much godliness comes into this world every single time we do something like that. We may not see it. We may not feel it. We may not appreciate it. But they see the truth. That song that we played here about a year ago from a famous Jewish singer, Mordechai Ben David. And he sings like he's the king of Jewish music. Fantastic, really good voice and the way he amplifies himself is fantastic. Anyway, but he sings a song in English about the little neshamala, little soul.
Yes.
And the soul is up in heaven. The soul is up in heaven. And the soul is being told it's time for you to go down. The soul says, I don't want to go down here. People are, what am I going to do? I'm going to be alone. I'm sitting here with God and you're telling me that. And they say, don't be afraid. I'll be there with you. And you can make a bracha and you can put on tzitzis and you can marry yarmulke and you can study Torah and you can pray and you can fill the world with godliness. Come on, don't be afraid. Come with me. I'll take you down. And he takes him down. And then 120 years later, a little neshama, it's time to leave. I don't want to go.
It's very touching.
It's very, very moving song. A beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song. But that's the point. The point is that the soul sees the reality and then it's convinced to come down. Then the soul is down here and says, wait a minute, I didn't finish. I didn't take advantage of all my time here. Some people have 120 years. Some people have 120 months. They don't have that long. But it didn't matter. You gotta go. I'm sorry, but it's time to go. Don't be afraid. Come with me. And that's basically how the song, the message of the song is. Anyway, so the bottom line is that when a person comes down to this world and has the opportunity to make brachas, to draw God, we're on the bottom of the barrel, we're on the lowest rung, but that really is the next level. But there is no next level here. So what's our next level? Our next level is back up.
Right.
Once you've completed the whole unit, we're ready to go back up. Okay, now let's look here. When the 100 blessings are able to affect a flow, all right, into Malchut, the lowest level, from the level of 100, which is above regular, normal, and 100 and 1,000 and then 10,000 are all higher than any specific place. The Torah, which is rooted in the holy myriads, or 10,000, elicits divine energy from 10,000. The aforementioned level of chafetz and ratzon, a level far beyond that of 100. The Torah comes from the very most high of levels. This divine energy, which is projected from the Torah, can then descend via the level of Malchut into this world and permeate physical things such as a sukkah and tefillin and so on. We stopped last week at the Sefer Torah, which is made from animal skins, parchment and wood. We've taken the most mundane thing and it becomes the holiest, revered object in this world. This concludes the interpretation of the verse, and he came with some of the holy myriads, which is the Torah came. God came with the Torah from the 10,000. That's towards the end of the Torah. This is where we stopped last week. However, the level of 10, this is just a footnote at the end of this. However, the level of 10,000 elicited through Torah study and also through the performance of mitzvot, performance of commandments, of the Jewish observances. As we say, in English, it's who sanctified us with his mitzvot. In Hebrew, it's Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvotav. Who sanctified us with his mitzvot. Sanctification means that this is something that's removed. When you say something is sanctified, it's different. It's removed. The word kodesh, kedusha, kaddish, those words mean all the same thing, holy or sanctified. And when in Hebrew, when you say the word holy, it means it's removed. It's away, set aside. So, this level of 10,000 must also first pass through Malchut, through the level of Malchut, through that lowest realm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's look at footnote 62. For spiritual energy to descend into the physical world, it must pass through a spiritual evolution, so to speak, descending from level to level until it can enter the physical world. You're talking now godly energy turning into something physical, just something so not ungodly, but just non-godly. The bird and the trees and the grass and everything else just seems to be nature. God, of course, is hidden in the nature, but you can't see God. You have to really seek God. So in order for this divine energy to create this, to come down to this, well then it has to go from level to level, a filter system, if you will, until you can get rid of the heavy divinity so you can create this. Malchut is the final stage in this process, as it is the lowest of the supernal sphirot, the lowest of these energies that bring God to this world, yet closest in relation to the physical world, because it's the bottom. Therefore, even the loftiest levels of spiritual energy must ultimately pass through Malchut as they descend into the physical realm. Okay, so that's a very simple, understandable manifestation of how God comes into this world. It has to go through this lowest level in order for it to be able to fit into this world. The Hebrew word for who, we're back now in the text, 4 lines into the text of the final paragraph. The Hebrew word for who is Asher. Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvotav. Who sanctified us with his commandments. Asher. This word who. Now, the word Asher, etymologically related to Osher. Osher means happiness. There's a word Osher with an ayin, which means wealth. There's a word Osher with an aleph that means happiness. Does wealth bring you happiness? And pleasure.
That's good.
You can't buy happiness, but I wouldn't mind having a few more dollars. It might make me happy. So, Ashrei is happy is the man. Ashrei is happy. And Asher, the name Asher means that as well. Happiness and pleasure. So the word who has sanctified us. Asher Kiddushanu has the same letters and almost the same way you pronounce those letters as wealth and happiness, pleasure. The aforementioned level of chefetz, that's what chefetz is, a desire. That's connected to the 10,000. Hence we say, blessed are you, Lord, Baruch atah Adonai, King of the universe, Melech ha'olam, Asher, who sanctified us with his mitzvah, Kiddushanu b'mitzvotav. Every time we do a mitzvah, like washing the hands, or listening to the shofar, or lighting the menorah, we say, Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvotav. Who sanctified? We don't say that for every blessing. When we eat hamotzi lechem min haaretz, it doesn't come with Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvotav. It's not a mitzvah to eat bread. If you're eating bread, make sure it's kosher, make sure and eat the bread, but make the blessing. But there's no commandment to eat bread. Mm-hmm. When we eat the matzah, you do say Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvotav al achilat matzah, to eat matzah, because it's a commandment from God to eat the matzah. So we only say this Asher Kiddushanu part when it's a mitzvah being performed. This Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvotav will sanctify us with his mitzvot, with his commandments. The emphasis here being on King of the universe, which refers to Malchut. The word Malchut is the same word as Melech. It's the feminine of Melech. Malchut is the feminine word of kingship. Melech is the king. Malka, it's the same word. Malka is the queen. Malchut is royalty in a feminine level. Melech ha'olam, the king of the universe, meaning the king, how he appears in the universe. And how he appears in the universe is with Malchut, the lowest level. The feminine level of God is what's revealed to this world. This is the concept of the union of Kudsha Brichu and the Shekhinah. Kudsha Brichu and the Shekhinah. Kudsha Brichu is Aramaic for Hebrew, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but we say, Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's an Aleinu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's the term that is used everywhere for the Holy One, blessed be He. HaKadosh, the Holy One. Baruch, blessed, Hu, He. Kadosh Baruch Hu, Holy One, blessed be He. In Aramaic, Kudsha means holy, it's like Kodesh. Brich, blessed, who is He? Kudsha Brichu, Kadosh Baruch Hu. What's the union of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Malchut? Isn't that the same thing? It's the same God. What does that mean, the union? There's a part in the prayer which we say on Shabbos. It is right after the if you come early enough, you'll hear that song. It's early on in the prayers. So that's about 9:40 or so where we do that one. And if you're there, you're there. And we repeat Lacha. It's a 22 praises to God. Each one of them has an aleph, two alephs, two bays, two gimel, two dalet, two hey, two tufs, all the way to the end. It's 22 letters. It's based on the Hebrew alphabet. Ha'aderes v'ha'emuna is an aleph. The glory and the faith. L'chai olamim, to the one who lives forever. Ha'bina v'ha'bracha, the wisdom and the blessing. L'chai olamim. And it goes on. Gav v'gdula, day of it. Anyway, so we sing that song here. And right after that, immediately following that, is we say a line that's in Aramaic, and we talk about the union of Kudsha Brichu and Shekhinah and Shechinte. Kudsha Brichu, the Holy One, blessed be He, and the Shekhinah, the divine presence. Wait a minute, Holy One, blessed be He is who? God. Divine presence is who? Divine God. What union are you talking about here? Union?
Masculine, feminine.
So is this masculine and feminine? So let's see here. 64. The text of the footnote 64. The text of the blessing is, blessed are you, Baruch atah, Lord our God, Melech, King of the universe, Melech haolam, Hasher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, who sanctified us with His mitzvot, v'tzivanu, and commanded us. The Hebrew term for King of the universe is Melech ha'olam,
Right.
the King of the world, King of the universe. This term denotes the union of Kudsha Brichu and the Shekhinah as follows. Melech refers to God who is king. Melech means a king. That's not a queen. That's a king. King is a masculine word. God is also called Kudsha Brichu, or literally, the Holy One, blessed be He. The second word, ha'olam, Melech ha'olam, means the universe, or world in its literal sense. So He is the king. King is the Holy One, the Great One, the Divine One. Who is ha'olam? It's the world, that's the universe, that's where we are. In relating kingship to worlds, the king of the world, Psalm 145 says, which is an Ashrei, Malchutcha, Malchut kol olamim, which means your kingship is a kingship over all worlds. And with Malchut being identical to Shekhinah, that the word Malchut is the Shekhinah, we'll talk about that in a second, we can now associate the term Melech HaOlam with the union of Kudsha Brichu and his Shekhinah. Very unclear here. And I don't think you're any the wiser after reading this. So let's discuss it. So we talk about the 7 levels, right? The 7 characteristics. These 7 characteristics that every human being possesses, some stronger in others than other ones, but everyone has 7. Those 7, and 7 on the positive side, and there's also 7 on the negative side. There's jealousy, and there's anger, and there's laziness, and so on. So there's 7 levels. These 7 levels, all the first 6 of them are all giving. They are receiving from the other one and giving to the next. So it's all a unit of constant flow through them. When it gets to the 7th, the Malchut, it has to stop there, because that's the end. 7th. There needs to be a reflection. And only then, and the reflection, when it comes to the physical, when it comes to giving birth, it's a 9-month reflection. If you compare it to the union of a husband and a wife, well, it takes 1 second, but then it takes 9 months for that to develop into the next level, to the next generation. That means there's a long gap, there's a long stop. Even the shortest period of pregnancy, whether whoever it is or whatever it might be, an egg or some little bird, or whatever, it still has to take a relatively long time. And a lot of things change. The body changes, and also the characteristic changes. I wrote a whole good Shabbos email about this. We have birds now that have nests all around over here. We look all every time Passover comes, we spend our time looking for nests. We have at least 2 that we know of, that we have watched and observed. Now, at one point, one of the birds was in our garage. We had it in this garage, and we also had it in our other house. And it was right in front of us. Every time you walked past, it was right in front of you. And as long as you didn't go too close, but a lot closer than you could go in the normal way, that bird just sat there.
Wow. Yeah.
If you stayed about 2 or 3 feet away, you could have just stood there and stared at that bird, and that bird just continuously stood there. Now, first of all, you get within 10 feet of a bird, bye-bye. Number 1. Number 2, birds are the most busy of all animals. They don't stop moving around. Their heads are moving, and they're constantly on the move. They're always like 1 step away from running. They're not going to sleep down here. Where they're going to sleep is going to be in a very hidden, secluded place. And so they're always, but not when they're sitting on those eggs. They're just still as you can be. We have one in our mailbox right here, in the bottom mailbox.
Wow.
They already have, the chicks have hatched. And you can see that these birds will tolerate up to a certain level much, much more than they would. And they change around themselves. And that's with everything. When there's a pregnancy, a change happens. A change in the mother, and because there's a change coming to this world. So when you talk about the 6 giving into the 7th is a stop. The 7th is a reflection time, if you take it in characteristics. Or the 7th is a building. What are you building? The next level. So Kudsha Brichu, the Holy One, blessed be Him, the King, the Melech, that's the male. That's the male characteristic of God. That's those people, when we say to God, Baruch Atah, blessed are you, God, we don't say Baruch At, which is the feminine way. We say Baruch Atah. Why Atah? Because we're talking to the giving level of God. But when we talk about God in a different context, let's say Shabbos, we say Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala, go to the bride. Who's the bride? God again. A bride? Yeah, he's also feminine. When is he feminine? When it's the end of the week or the end of the level, and he's now, the whole energy is not just giving, but it's changed, and it has become reflective of how it can come to you.
Interesting.
So God is not just a male; it's male and female. He's everything. He's not limited to being a male and female, but it depends where you're talking. So those people who change, we want to make the shiddur gender friendly. Fool! You don't even know what you're talking. You don't even understand what's going on over here. You have to. You don't have to change anything. There's some men and some women. It's not a gender. God isn't a male or a female. But he reveals himself in both areas, in both ways. There's a difference between male and female, and that is pronounced in different times or different places and different days of the week and whatnot. The total lack of understanding, of a sensitivity, of appreciation of what we're saying here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so you look at a reform prayer book, and they say, "Oh, blessed you, God of our fathers, Avotenu, our fathers, Ve'imotenu, and our mothers."
Yeah. Right.
Idiot! It doesn't mean fathers here anyway. It means the ancestors. Like every single thing they try to change to make it gender friendly is actually ruining the meaning of the words. No, the Torah is not sexist, and no, the Torah is not one way. The Torah is talking either in the level of God this way, or level of God that way. And we, every day before the prayers begin, that blessing that we make, we say, may there be a unification of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kucha Brichu, that level of giving, the male level, and the Shekhinah level, so that way we get a complete unit, and then when you have a complete unit, the blessing comes down. Then, right before we make the main blessing of the prayer of the day, that's when we say these words. Some people say before every single blessing that they make on any kind of mitzvah, they're counting the Omer, L'Hashem Yichud, for the unification, Kucha Brichu, of the male-oriented divine level to the Shekhinah, that's the feminine level. So when you bring a male and female together, what do you get? You get a good thing here. You get something fantastic. You get the highest, most intense levels of enjoyment, of pleasure, and of course of the next level. That's what the prayers are implying when we talk about unification of the two different divine levels. That's the unification. So that's the word meaning of the blessing. Baruch atah melech haolam. Baruch atah, blessed are you. You meaning the masculine level. Atah, not at. Melech, who is the king, not the queen. Ha'olam, which is the feminine level, because that's this world. The malchut of this world, that's a feminine level. And that's really unification. Every single time we say the blessing, it's another unification, which is why before the blessing we say, let there be the unification when we recite this blessing. Because the blessing is that unification, so we should draw down that great level of godliness into this world. That's the whole idea of blessing. So when we make 100 blessings like that, we are talking or referring to something really heavy, really deep, really profound to bring upon blessings upon ourselves. This is the concept of the union of Kucha, the last 4 lines of the page. This is the concept of the union of Kucha Brichu, which is the Holy One, blessed be He, the elusive level meaning the masculine level, and the Shekhinah, the feminine divine level that's here in this world. Therefore, quote, which is from the Talmud in Brachot, which is our first forage into the Talmud, any blessing which lacks mention of God's name and kingship, which is basically that indication of unification of God, then the Shekhinah is not considered a proper blessing. That's what the Talmud says. Now let's see here, 65. This is a reference to Brachot 12a and also on 40b and the Rambam, which is law, Hilchot Brachot. Now the mimer here, this discourse here, explains in a Hasidic light the importance of mentioning God's name and kingship when reciting a blessing. The core purpose of mentioning God's name and kingship when reciting a blessing is to elicit the sublime level, as I said before, the higher level of chefetz into malchut, that level chefetz, which is higher than a person than the regular routine godliness. So that should come into the malchut, into the lowest level, when this level descends into our lower world. Were one not to mention God's name and kingship, then the core purpose of the blessing would be lacking.
Wow.
May we all experience lots of blessings and lots of God's energy. Amen.
Amen.